gives you a little flavor of how we began to work this. The piece has a lot of dimensions to it with video. Let me put it to you this way. It's interesting to me how, if you ask a big enough question these days, you can't answer it with a single discipline. That's why everybody's hyphenated. I mean, everybody, right? And not just in science, where we're meeting, people who are chemical biology, astrophysicists, or something like that, but in our field too. And in order to accomplish what I felt the questions were going to be with this piece, I felt charged more than ever to expand beyond dance. So the creative team here was a videographer, an animator, a lighting designer, a sound designer, and myself, and then all of the collaboration with the dancers. And you can start to see how we were able to actually master, I think, some complex ideas that we would not have been able to do singularly with dance. So just to stay on this beginning stage is just a little longer, and to reflect a little bit about the impact on a campus. So I was visiting and formed a group of scientists who agreed to help me make sure that the science was right. I thought that was going to be important. So we were working on this section, and I brought a group of them in, and we were in a theater, and I showed them this. And you may recall there's a little moment where Mendel goes upside down on his hands. So one of the scientists said, excuse me, Liz, but I don't think Gregor Mendel would have done that. And it was such a delightful and wonderful little comment, and also like another little door opening into how we think, how our worlds think, what truth actually is, or what is authenticity, or when do you get metaphor and when don't you. So that same afternoon, we were showing another section which we ended up not using. Well, we used the dancing part, but we didn't use the scientific part. We kept some of the movement, but somebody told me that what we were doing was just plain wrong, and it had to do with DNA replication. I said, it's wrong. And I went and got the article that I took it from, and I said, here. And I showed him some Scientific American or something, some article, Nature or something. He said, oh, well, this is wrong. I love that. Of course, it's wrong. Lots of it's wrong. And one of the first sort of conscious new ideas that came to me was that science had sold the public on the fact that it's always correct. And we in art had sold the public on the fact that we're just always sort of interpretive wild, and like you can never count on us to be like factual, right? And that we were both paying a price for that. Both of our fields. We're paying a huge price for that, and wouldn't it be good if we could figure out how to expand those ideas? And actually, I feel like a piece like this starts maybe to do that. I'm not showing this section, but I really got into the idea of dueling metaphors, and that people have very, very, very different ways of describing things and using metaphors. And there is a section when you first meet the scientists in the piece where they are actually explaining what DNA is, and one of them says it's a digital storage system, and another one says it's the blueprint for life. And you can tell they have different ideas. If it's a digital storage system, or if it's the blueprint for it. Those are different, and how we move between those things. So we got very involved in beginning to explore these relationships between scientists and artists, and different ways that we could play that out. And one of the earliest was just my going to a faculty meeting at Wesleyan University with about 30 scientists and dance people. It's amazing. Not sure this is true everywhere, but at Wesleyan, the science faculty gets together once a week for lunch, and they almost always have somebody from the outside coming in and talking to them. Isn't that great? Isn't that great? We never do that. I just thought that was wonderful. So I asked them this question: what do you think the public needs to know? And then they had this amazing conversation between themselves. I was just a little reflective mirror. I mean, I was like boom, boom, boom. They obviously had a lot to say to each other. And I think they were working out a lot of their disagreements with me in the room, but which I think is fine, because I think that's what a catalyst or an outsider might do. And I left thinking, even if the piece doesn't do anything else, we're all going back to our respective laboratories better than we were an hour ago. Freshened up, maybe the plaque moved off ourselves just a little bit, and we can go in now and try again. So wherever possible, we started to set up these possibilities of exchanges in a variety of forms. And even now at Wesleyan, the faculty have formed groups. They raised some money, and they're doing teams of faculty, graduate students, and undergraduates working in the elementary and middle schools using the dance as a textbook. And they're off in this section we just saw in particular. So it's continuing its own little work. So yes.
You know, I noticed in your list that you had Sutton.
Yeah.
And Sutton was the person, I believe, who discovered that the genetic information is carried on the chromosomes. And he was at KU.
Isn't that great? I didn't know that. I'm glad to know that. I actually don't know all of the people who are on that list because I'm a good collaborator and I turn that part to somebody else. But I do like to hear who people pick up on and why. And I've had people who watched that list go, because I only showed it partly to you, wanting to figure out why the font changes. And a lot of people spending time trying to figure out if the font changed, what did that mean about that particular person. I really like that. That's people actually getting their minds to make interesting connections, whether I intended them or not. So you can see that this idea of inquiry matters a lot to me, and this notion of how do we ask questions continued. And I just want to show you a little bit about how that section worked out. I have to say I'm still not entirely satisfied with it, but I do want to show you two clips from it for a couple of reasons. One is, how do we impart information, bring people along, and make it feel like discovery, as opposed to just, I'm going to teach you this thing. That's a question for me, and it's a big question, I think, in the educational world. At least science and art have laboratories, so there is already built into our processes something about discovery and not only memorization and learning. But, partly that was a question for the audience too. How could I bring them along? So the piece starts with just dance, then you get just video, then you get a little bit of video and a little bit of dance really slowly, like in the section with Mendel. Then it starts to get more and more complicated. So by the time we get to this, how do I ask myself a question, we've got a lot going on. We didn't get to go through all those little steps, but that's what I'm going to show you now. And also, there's an evolution of the scientists and their relationship to movement. So when you first see the scientists, they're the way we usually see scientists in the public, which are talking heads. But as the piece progresses, you start to see them in different ways. And so by this little section, you'll see two of them again, Bonnie Bassler, and a wonderful bioinformatician from, two of them from Duke, who are a little more engaged in the movement, and see how that affects you. So we'll look at two little clips from this little section. So we have to wind our way through because of the way that the technology is. So Vance and I are going to take you through a few clips till we get there. Okay, let's go to the next one.